The U.S. President Donald Trump has announced sweeping new tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, a move that is sparking a traders' war.
Trump later said that he will hold talks with the leaders of Canada and Mexico. Trump also told reporters that he would be implementing tariffs on goods from the European Union pretty soon.
Now, Trump has imposed a 25% tariff on all imports from Mexico and most goods from Canada, with a 10% duty on Chinese imports. The U.S. administration said the measure aims to stop the flow of fentanyl and undocumented immigrants, but no clear benchmark for lifting the tariffs have been set.
Now, Trump admitted that Americans may feel economic pain from his tariffs on key trading partners, but argued that it would be worth the price to secure U.S. interests.
And tariffs don't cause inflation, they cause success. They cause big success. So we're going to have great success. There could be some temporary short-term disruption, and people will understand that. But the tariffs are going to make us very rich and very strong, and we're going to treat other countries very fairly. But if you think about it, other countries charge us tariffs. We don't charge them tariffs, and it's about time that that changes.
Now, Trump called again for Canada to become a U.S. state, heightening tensions further with one of his country's closest allies, after hitting it with heavy tariffs. Now, while claiming the United States pays hundreds of billions of dollars to subsidize Canada, Trump said that without this massive subsidy, Canada ceases to exist as a viable country.
Retaliation has come fast from all the three tariff-hit countries. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced far-reaching 25% tariffs on $155 billion worth of U.S. goods, hitting alcohol, produce, clothing, furniture, and more. Trudeau has indicated that he has not spoken with Trump since the swearing-in last week.
If President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us, unfortunately. The actions taken today by the White House split us apart instead of bringing us together.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said that U.S. is shooting itself in the foot. Sheinbaum has ordered her government to implement a countermeasure, which includes tariff and non-tariff measures in defense of Mexico's interests. Now, Mexican imports could include everything from fresh produce to vehicles, clothing, avocados, bananas, and electronics, all expected to become much costlier for U.S. citizens.
I responded to the government of the United States. I told them clearly that we can collaborate, cooperate, because it is important to cooperate and collaborate between nations, but never with interference, with them wanting to tell us how to do things. But with collaboration for that reason, I say coordination yes, subordination no.
While China filed a World Trade Organization complaint and has vowed to take corresponding countermeasures, economists warn that the tariffs will drive up prices for American consumers on everything from cars to food to electronics. Business groups are sounding the alarm. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce calls it a tax increase on American families. The energy sector, agriculture industry, and retailers say that the measure will upend supply chains.
Now, with no exceptions and a clause to raise tariffs even higher if countries retaliate, the policy could escalate quickly. Trump acknowledges the move could cause temporary disruption, but calls it necessary for national security. Who's introducing?
To discuss more, we're now being joined by Terry Moski. He is a journalist and author and is joining us live from Ottawa, Canada. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. Now, let me begin by asking you, it's like the traders are saying it, the consumers are saying it, that this will hit U.S. domestically, not just like from food to cars to electronics. This is so much that's going to be impacted. What comes next, according to you?
Well, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. The mood is extremely angry in Canada. This is not, that sentence that I just spoke is not one you hear very often. We are by nature polite, or so it's said. And at the moment, we've got scenes where the American national anthem is being booed at sporting events. Half the provinces are taking American liquor off the shelves. Canadians drink a lot of American liquor. Not anymore. They're boycotting it. Whether they're told to or not, people are extremely angry about what Trump is doing. And I think the Americans, the American consumer, I mean, as soon as they feel the pain, they're going to complain. And some people are going to answer, well, I'm sorry, sir, I have to charge you the extra, but you can blame Mr. Trump. And I think that the pressure is going to be a population that is angry and difficult and ornery about this in the United States. Mr. Trump won't have all the people behind him, but the Canadians and the Mexicans, they will. Canadians are rallying around this. It's a very popular thing now to hate the Americans.
Now, building on what you said, Mr. Milewski, I want to ask that now that Trump has imposed these tariffs, which were merely speculative just some while ago, they've now materialized into reality, and all the three countries hit, Canada, Mexico, China, they've been quick to come up with their response and have made it public that there will be retaliatory measures. But what do you think is the causal effect going to look like for the rest of the world? What are you anticipating by this move?
I think that Mr. Trump is dug in now. For the rest of the world, it's going to look like this could be you next. He has, as you know, talked about doing the same thing to the European Union, which is a very powerful trading bloc. And he might come to regret that, too. But I don't think he's going to back off. I mean, he hasn't even been taking calls from from Justin Trudeau in recent days. They haven't spoken since the inauguration, apparently. And this is extraordinary when something of this importance is occurring. This is most unusual and most discourteous. And I think that it's just going to make everything worse. Remember that Canada is now in a sort of interregnum between governments, with Trudeau already announcing that he's going to resign. We don't really have much of a government. The Parliament is closed until the Liberal Party elects a new leader who will become Prime Minister. And so all of this should lead to a situation, in normal circumstances, where the Prime Minister's a lame duck and nobody cares what he says. On the contrary, right now, the mood here is going to be reflected similarly in Mexico. And if it extends to China and to the European Union, as Mr. Trump says it will, you'll see the same effect there, I believe.
Right. And that being said, what, according to you, is keeping Trump from actually making all these decisions? What is the confidence that he has?
Well, he lives in the 19th century, doesn't he? I mean, he doesn't seem to have any interest in the facts of international economics. Just to take one example, he says that the U.S. is being treated very unfairly by Canada because the U.S. subsidizes Canada by 200 or 250 billion, depending on which day it is. And this is absolute nonsense. He's talking about the fact that Americans willingly buy more stuff from Canada than Canadians do, a much smaller economy, obviously, from the United States. Well, if I buy something from you, it's not a subsidy. I'm not subsidizing you. I'm exchanging a thing of value, my money, for your products. I mean, it's absurd. So if you're asking me, why does Trump do what he does? I think Mad King Donald is just, that's the way he is. He doesn't understand what he's getting into.
Right, Mr. Milewski, and also like the way in which the three countries have responded. It has been made clear that there will be retaliatory measures, but at the same time, there's a growing sentiment in Canada, as you've just echoed, where people are, let's say, publicly following the suit of Mr. Trudeau and are willing to boycott American goods. But at the same time, Mr. Trump's again, the push for making Canada the 51st state. What do you have to say about that? And how are the conversations going to evolve from this point onwards, given that the tariffs would come into implementation on Tuesday?
Well, as you reported correctly earlier in the show, Mr. Trump says he is going to hold talks with the leaders of Mexico and Canada. And obviously, you won't, no prize for betting that this matter will come up, this 51st state nonsense. The problem is that it is utter nonsense. The Canadians won't discuss it at all. I mean, what are you going to do? Invade? I mean, get real. It's completely preposterous. And I mean, that would be doing exactly what Putin has done in Ukraine. I mean, it's unheard of since the Second World War, such a thing. And even if he starts with a smaller bite out of Panama by going after the Panama Canal, and then graduates to Greenland, about which nobody outside Denmark really cares, then that would get very real very fast, because I understand that the French have already talked to the Danes about stationing troops in Greenland. So we know where the French stand on this. So I think that Trump is not going to back off until he has to. He only understands one thing, and that is embarrassment. If he looks silly or weak on the world stage, he looks like a fool on the world stage, which he soon will, I believe, then I think that's the only thing that will turn him around, that will end these tariffs. But that is going to take a long time. Remember, he's got a very thick skin.
All right. Well, of course, we'll be looking at how it all turns out on Tuesday, perhaps. But thank you so much, Mr. Mileski, for joining us and giving your perspective.
Thank you.